every man that you see walking around the streets twiddling their thumbs is essentially an incel. And look, here's my policy. I stay away from women, all women of all ages, regardless of the circumstances. I have a sort of Taliban-esque response to women. I'm allergic to them. I stay away from them. And look, I refuse to argue with them. I will not ride elevators with them. I will not speak to them unless I have to. And that's where that's the distinction for me, is that there is no luxurious conversations with women for me. They're all, it has to be very appropriate to the scenario. I don't take any questions. I don't ask any questions. I have no female friendships. My idea is that they obviously need to get back in the kitchen and start making sandwiches, and making sure that they also have that Dijon mustard on tap, homemade mayo, of course. But look, I think that the thing is, the reason why inceldom has become such a common occurrence is that every single man that's single is essentially an incel. I was, at the behest of a group chat, labeled an incel myself by a crack den looking old lady who had no business even calling me that, yield that sort of attack, that sort of label on me, that sort of epithet. And I couldn't help but wonder, like, damn, this is some audacious shit to see this old hag, single spinster with cats, right, calling me, right, an incel. Naturally, I was taken aback, and I said, you know what? I think I am going to go ahead and label myself as such. I think I am an incel. Moving forward, I'm going to stay away from women as much as I can. And look, I'm tired of these super combative women. I'm tired of having to constantly do this. And I'll tell you why. Feminism, right, has just produced inferior males in the sense that they have all of the privilege and none of the responsibility. So they can yield attacks. They can say that I'm on menopause. They can try to create these false equivalences that don't even matter of fact. And they can be toxic and rude and obnoxious and nasty and violent with their words, and not really get any response back. Guys, on the other hand, we have none of the privilege and all of the responsibility. So I can't possibly put my hands on you, but you can say so many things that would compel me to do so. And here's the thing. I got into it with this lady who was talking to me about, she was citing the Bible, and I was just thinking to myself, like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, is this some like weird liberal way of saying, I know that you're different, I understand that you are of a culture that looks different? And she, placed me in sort of a desert landscape, and I was just thinking to myself, would you have done the same thing? So if I was a white guy, are you going to place me in the Arctic? And if I was a black guy, am I in the jungle? I just need to know. And so naturally, she's like, oh, well, obviously she starts yelling and, crying victim. She yells and she runs to HR and says, he called me the hard R, with these crocodile tears in her eyes. And naturally they had to address the matter. And they said, hey, did you call her the hard R? I was like, perhaps, I don't know. And it just got to show me that, like, you can't even duke it out with these people without them wanting to play victim. And it's just like, look, you can understand why guys, especially younger guys, would stay away from women. It's like, who wants to deal with these terms of engagement in which we get really nothing in return for our efforts? And so, like I said, I have a policy of just staying away from them at all costs. I won't look at them. I won't speak to them. And like I said, my policy is very strict. I don't need to deal with women unless I have to deal with them, and that's very few and far between. I won't even look at them. I won't say anything. And if you're a guy that's like, well, if I'm single and I'm an incel, how do I get out of that, right? How do I get out of that camp? Well, it's very simple. You pick and choose who you talk to. You don't talk to them equally. You don't engage in conversation unless you genuinely are interested in pursuing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of talking to them other than in instances in which you have to. And I think that's the best policy if you want to stray that sort of like feminist nonsense that's kind of permeating the environment. It's just like so obvious that a lot of the conversations get started in bad faith. I mean, you would be surprised how many girls you talk to and they hate the living guts out of most guys. They can't stand them. They look at them and they're repulsed. And so if you're going to be starting conversations with these types of people, these inferior males, it's like, what possibly positive thing can come out of that? And so you really just got to think. You can understand the position of an incel. And look, like I said, I even self-identify as one, even though I was labeled one. I self-identify as an incel moving forward. So don't beat yourself up over the label. And I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.